We are ready for the final chapter of the 18th season of the longest running GT3 championship in the world. We are ready for the season finale of the ADAC GT Masters. Hello everybody, welcome to the Hockenheimring. There's smoke in the air. It was fog this morning. It's now tyre smoke because we have just seen a monumental end to the DTM championship here at the Hockenheimring. There was an awful lot of donuts going on. There was a lot of smoke and a lot of showboating. There was a lot of celebration as well. It does mean that it's taken us a few minutes longer to get this race underway. The final race of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. You can see there's a bit of activity in the pit lane at the moment, and very shortly the cars will come round on their installation laps and will come to the grid. But yes, we are on the road to DTM. So although the DTM race has been and gone, the championship is finished. It's very significant because the ADAC have very much a ladder mechanism in place. It's called the Road to DTM. It takes young drivers from karting. It finances them into the ADAC GT for Germany, another series well worth checking out if you have a moment or two spare. The winner in ADAC GT for Germany gets funding for this championship, the ADAC GT Masters, and the winner of this championship, the Road to DTM, gets funding for the DTM. And it was yesterday that we crowned the champions of 2024 in the ADAC GT Masters. Elias Seppänen created history by becoming the first driver ever to successfully defend a title in the GT Masters. We've seen repeat winners in the past. We've never seen anybody do it back-to-back years. But Elias Seppänen did that. Tom Callender, his co-driver, also created history. He became the youngest ever champion in ADAC GT Masters at just 16 years old. This time last year, Tom Callender was racing in Formula 4 in France. Such has been the ascendancy of this young man. He can now call himself a champion in the longest running GT3 championship in the world, the League of Super Sports Cars. It was a great day yesterday. Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender finishing in third place. It meant that they were out of reach in the points championships. Leon Köhler and Max Osten had pushed them all the way this season, had worked so hard to take the challenge to Seppänen and Callender. They had 3 wins, but eventually it was the duo for Landgraf Motorsport in the Mercedes AMG with 4 wins this season who clinched the championship. It means that today, although we've got the Silver Cup up for grabs still, we have the Team Championship up for grabs. The drivers, in essence, are very much racing for glory. We're not thinking too much about points championships, but just to update you on the team standings, Haupt Racing, HRT, currently has 310 points there, 74 points clear of FK Performance. The best placed car in each team earns the points. So Haupt Racing leading the way in the team standings and very much in contention for the championship. Of course, it's all subject to confirmation, which is why we're not announcing champions too early. In the Pro-Am Championship, it is the number 4 duo, Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer for Fack Autotech, who have won the Pro-Am Championship, the first ever Pro-Am Championship in the ADAC GT Masters. The 2024 season has been a very different kind of GT Masters. We had last year, which was very much the dawn of a new era, changing format with the ADAC taking the DTM under its wing. The direction of GT Masters perhaps changing slightly, becoming a little bit more of a feeder towards DTM, but still very high profile, and now very much aligned towards young drivers and ambitious amateurs. And this year, we've had 6 rounds. That's 12 12 races, but new for this year. We've had the usual sprint weekends. We've had 8 sprint races, but we've also seen the introduction of the endurance weekends, and we've had 2 of those. It was great to bring the ADAC GT Masters back to Spa-Francorchamps in August and September, across the August-September weekend. We also were at the Truck Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Those were the 2 endurance races. The 80-minute race on the Saturday, followed by a very short 40-minute race on the Sunday. That format has proven to be very popular with drivers, teams and fans. At the Nürburgring endurance race, David Schumacher and Salman Vega won both of those races. At Spa-Francorchamps, Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender won the first race, and the short sprint race was won by Janis Fichter and Finn Wiebelhaus. Finn Wiebelhaus, another who was racing alongside Tom Callender, along with Max Rice. All 3 of them were racing last year in the French Formula 4 series in a team that was fielded by the ADAC, all 3 of them stepping into GT Masters this year. And all 3 of them have proven to be very rapid, but none more so than Tom Callender, who has clinched the championship with 1 race still to run. So you can see we have cars now on the grid. It says that the start of the formation lap will be at 15:25 local time. So that is at about 8 minutes that we will get the formation lap underway. It is the last race of the season, the 12 races that we've endured, and it was the 11th race yesterday that saw David Schumacher and Salman Vega take a win in the number 2 HRT Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. It was their 3rd win of the season. Of course, Salman Vega, the co-pilot of that car, along with David Schumacher. Vega, the outgoing champion in ADAC GT Masters. It was this time last year that we saw Salman Vega and Elias Seppänen in the same team and clinching the championship in GT Masters. They've now gone their separate ways into different teams, with Seppänen in the Landgraf car and Salman Vega in the HRT car. And we always knew that Vega and Schumacher, of course, David Schumacher, a former DTM driver, we always knew they were going to be very rapid and very competitive. And they pushed all the way, but eventually, well, it's 3rd in the championship coming into this race. They are clear of Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Fichter by 22 points. So it is possible they could be overhauled in the 3rd place in the standings, but at the moment looking reasonably solid there. To look at what we're going to be having here today is Alan Valente, who in qualifying this morning, who earned his first pole position in ADAC GT Masters in the Amofrai Racing Ferrari, the number 14 car that he shares with Jean-Luc D'Oria. They will be looking for their first win of the season. They've had a couple of second places, but in a really strong position to take a first win in the GT Masters this year. We did see a win from Alan Valente last year. That was here at Hockenheim, and he took a win there, his one and only win in GT Masters, but he would dearly love to repeat that. Jean-Luc D'Oria yet to win in ADAC GT Masters, so in a great spot to do that. Just while we're summarising yesterday, and then we'll move back onto today. It was yesterday that we saw Marcel Marcevic and J-Mo Hartling. They started on pole position and they came home in 2nd place for Schnitzelam Racing. Really good to have Schnitzelam Racing on the grid here for this final round of the 2024 season. The crew that's headed up by Thomas Angera, they're based about 30 kilometers from the Nürburgring and have been making noises about potentially entering a car into the DTM sometime in the future. Marcel Marcevic, a very useful pilot indeed, and J-Mo Hartling, one of the real up-and-coming superstars in the world of GT racing. J-Mo Hartling, who is 21 years old, he got a 13th place last year at, earlier this year, beg your pardon, at the Nürburgring endurance event. They were in different teams with Marcel Marchevitz, well, different cars anyway, at the Nürburgring events. And Marcel Marchevitz, who we've been looking at in ADAC GT4 Germany over the years, now stepping up to the big league of GT3. He got a 3rd place, got a podium in the ADAC GT Masters at the Nürburgring earlier on this year. It is his 8th race in this series, and he would dearly love to get a 3rd podium. And Marcel Marchevitz and J-Mo Hartley in the number 11 car, starting from 10th on the grid for this race. They are guest starters, so they won't be scoring any points, so they'll be gunning for it because they will want silverware. Unfortunately, they're going to have an extra 10 kilos of success ballast on board for them in the Mercedes on account of finishing 2nd yesterday. It was the 3rd place for Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender yesterday that secured the championship. They too have success ballast on board, although a mere 5 kilos. But they start 2nd on the grid for this race today, the final race of the season. So it's going to be Alan Valente who starts on pole position with Elias Seppänen alongside. Janis Fitcher originally finished in qualifying in P2, but has been relegated by the stewards to the penultimate row of the grid. So a little bit of work being done by the stewards for cars that have exceeded track limits or have penalties that are hanging over them. We did see an incident yesterday with Max Rice and Johannes Kapfinger, and the stewards have had to intervene in that as well. In the number 5 car, which Max Rice drives, starting further back on the grid, he shares that with Quando Mokoena. Mokoena didn't get a drive yesterday on account of contact between Kapfinger and Max Rice. So he will be looking to make hay as quickly as he can. All 4, bar 1, all 4 of the 5 Mercedes starting on the back 2 rows. The only Mercedes towards the front is that of Elias Seppänen. There is the Holzem car with Sandro Holzem, who will be doing the first stint behind the wheel. The identical twin of Giuliano Holzem. We have 2 sets of identical twins on the grid. The first time that's ever happened this season. I'll stop talking about it now the season's almost over. Along with the cat figures, great to have the Holzems here. And of course, Sandro Holzem, another former DTM driver. There's Nico Hanske, a driver who made his name in ADAC GT for Germany for the legendary Volkenhorst Motorsport. And great to have him here in the number 35 car, running in the Pro-Am category. And that's the other thing that is new for this year. We have a Pro-Am championship as well as part of the GT Masters. So the Pro-Ams are made up of drivers who are either bronze or silver, but go into the Pro-Am category. And we have several drivers in that category. We've got 4 of them, 4 pairings in this race, and they are fighting for their own championship, although that has now been secured by that car there, Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer. But it's significant with the Pro-Ams because we have the mandatory pit stop that comes 25 to 35 minutes into the race, where every car needs to come in for a mandatory stop and driver change. There is a minimum pit stop time. The minimum pit stop time for all cars from pit entry to pit exit is 85 seconds. That is with the exception of the Pro-Am drivers. Their minimum pit stop time is 70 seconds. So it means the Pro-Am drivers are stationary. Good thumbs up there for Mike David Ortman. The Pro-Am drivers are stationary in the pits for 15 seconds longer, no, 15 seconds shorter, make that, than the silver-rated drivers. And it means that suddenly, in the second half of the race, the Pro-Am drivers all start to appear somewhere near the top, if not at the very front of the pack. It makes for very exciting racing, and it's great to have the Pro-Am partnerships here in the ADAC GT Masters. I've got a set of headphones on at the moment, so I can't hear what's going on outside, but I can tell you that my feet are vibrating, and that is because this grid of ADAC GT Masters GT3 cars have burst into life. The heat haze above the pit straight at the Hockenheimring as the cars now with their engines running, getting ready to start their formation lap, and the vibrations are shaking through the ground. I'm up at the top of the grandstand on the pit straight, and it is a wonderful thing to see, hear and witness. GT Masters ADAC style. Air temperature 15.1 degrees centigrade. Pleased to say that the thick fog that we had this morning has now dissipated to be replaced by tyre fog from the DTM Donuts. That's now drifted away, so we finally got a bit of visibility as the cars start on their formation lap. It will be a lap to get some heat into the tyres and into the brakes for the very last time this season. Let's take a look at the starting grid, and it is Alan Valente for Emil Frey Racing with Elias Seppänen for company alongside on the front row of the grid. On row 2, Sandro Holzem has Nico Handke, the leading Pro-Am qualifier. On row 3, Leon Köhler, championship challenger up until yesterday, with second in the Pro-Ams, and the new Pro-Am champion, Alex Fack, alongside. Then is Mike David Orman. We saw him waving just now, with Benjamin Haitis for company on row 4. On row 5, Jonas Karklees, the first Lithuanian to ever stand on a GT Masters podium, with Mikael Kapfinger for company. And then it's Jonas Greif. And we welcome back Gregory de Cyborg. He wasn't at the Red Bull Ring, but he's back now. Taylor Hagler from the USA. Great to have her here for GRT Grasser, with Kwanda Mokoena, the South Africa driver, a real character, lining up alongside. Then is Janis Fincher and David Schumacher, and the guesting J-Mo Hartling, bringing up the rear of the grid. It is a field of cars that is getting ready for this final race of the season at the Hockenheimring. We are in the Rhine Valley near Hockenheim in Baden-Württemberg. The circuit, which was originally built in 1932, of course, famous for the Formula One German Grand Prix over the years. It is 4.574 kilometers around. That equates to about 2.842 miles. 17 turns, 9 of them to the right and 8 of them to the left. It's a great circuit, fairly flat. Quite a lot of overtaking opportunities, some tricky sections. This bit here, the Sachs Curve, turn 13, often tripping drivers up. It's quite banked, and often you may see drivers getting it wrong, and if they do, there is a fairly hefty fence on the outside of that corner. The fastest part is the parabolica that leads towards the hairpin, which is turn 6, taken flat out, and then heavy braking into the hairpin. Creates great overtaking opportunities, creates great opportunities to have an accident as well. We'll have one eye on the hairpin as well as the cars head up into turn 17. Are we ready? It's time for one last dance in this 2024 season for the ADAC GT Masters. 60 minutes plus 1 lap of racing ahead of us as the cars head towards turn 1. Good start from Alan Valente. Elias Seppänen, the new champion, have successfully defended the championship in GT Masters. Fancies rounding off the season with a top step at the podium, and he's already jumped into the lead into turn 2. Elias Seppänen leading the way. Look at Nico Handke and the Aston Martin on the outside. Further back, lots of challenges for position. Looking at the back of Mike David Orman now, looking back at Benjamin Haitis, but look at that. Elias Seppänen has already jumped in front as they head along the parabolica now. 3 abreast as they head towards the hairpin. That's not going to go as they go to the hairpin. Who is going to give up the position first? It's Fack on the outside, Handke in the middle. Mike David Orman is the one who comes out on top of that. Also, Benjamin Haitis in there as well. But our race leader has been given instructions to fall back behind second place. Race control have got involved. Elias Seppänen has been requested to give up his lead. You just saw Alan Valente coming through. Elias Seppänen trying to tuck in behind, but clearly race control were not happy with that start. They believe he gained an unfair advantage at the start of the race. And so Seppänen, the champion, relegated down into second place. Now has Leon Köhler in the mighty BMW, breathing down his exhaust pipe, dreaming of it as well. Sandro Holzem in 4th place, then Benjamin Haitis. Here come the rest of the pack. Alex Fack is our leading Pro-Am driver, because that move by Nico Handke on the opening lap did not stick, and he's fallen back through the order. So it is Alex Fack, the Pro-Am champion, who leads in the Pro-Am race. There is Yanis Fitcher in the grey Mercedes, also working his way up through the pack. But Alan Valente, now the new leader, Sepinen, had to give it back. He's also lost an awful lot of time to the leading car. So Sepinen in that second place. Leon Köhler in the BMW looking for a little bit of payback, having lost the championship to Sepinen and Callender, but now looking for a podium, looking for a race win if at all possible. Riding on board with David Schumacher once more along the Parabolica we come. Absolutely flat out we go towards the Parabolica. But it's Alan Valente who leads. Elias Sepinen, the early race leader, instructed to give that position back, but now has a look to the inside into the hairpin. Alan Valente slams the door in his face. Now it's a drag race. Out of the hairpin they come towards turn 7, absolutely flat out, and then it'll be in towards turn 8. The heavy braking into the left-hand turn. Keep an eye on Alex Fack there in 7th place. He's lining up Mike David Orman, but Elias Sepinen is lining up Alan Valente. He wants to steal the lead of this race. Valente's got it covered off at the moment. Into turn 11 they come. Then it'll be into the right-hander of turn 12, and then into the Autodrome section of the circuit. Valente in control at the moment, but soon they will come out of the final corner onto the pit straight, and Sepinen will be looking to try and pick up a slipstream as they head into turn 1. They need to negotiate this part first, then it'll be up to turn 16. Let's have another look at the start. So what was it that the steward saw that was wrong from Sepinen? It may have been he'd gone too wide into turn 1, and yes, exceeding track limits. I think the stewards believe that he took the lead using parts of the circuit that he's not meant to, and that is why he's had to give that lead position back. This was the view. You're hanging off the side of the number 1 car. Oh, that's a scary moment. Going wide there, out of turn 1 towards turn 2, and that is how he got the lead, and then he had to give it back. An exciting start to the race. This is the perspective of Jonas Greif and the Powell Motorsport Lamborghini as he saw the green lights as well. So the ADAC GT Masters, the final race of the season. We've got 56 minutes remaining on the clock. To remind you, there will be a pit window that will open 25 minutes into the race, and during that 10-minute window every car will need to come in for a mandatory stop and driver change. As we look again at the start, it's good that we're getting some replays, because I've now just been joined by the voice of DTM, been catching up on all business at DTM, and now joins me in the commentary box. Good afternoon, Chris Hartley. You missed a really good start, mate.
Yeah, didn't miss anything. No, good to see the replays. Yeah, just been on press conference duties for the DTM. I love races like this. I know it's nice to have a thrilling championship finale in the last race of the season, but when it's all done and dusted and the shackles are off, they're just racing, it's great. And look at this, battle for the lead of the race, and a change for the lead of the race. Sepinen back in front of Valente now, so the Mercedes back in front of the Ferrari, and then the BMW of Leon Köhler has a look at the inside, can't find a way through. Sandro Holsom looking for his best result of the season so far in the Audi, looking pretty nifty as well in 4th place, and 1 or 2 trying to come from the disqualification from qualifying, including Yanis Fitcher, who's made his way in the number 3 Mercedes up to 12th place now.
So this is a replay of that lead change. Elias Sepinen, it felt like it was only a matter of time. He is so dialed in, and that Mercedes looking so good here at the Hockenheimring. He found the gap on the inside of Alan Valente, pulled alongside, and then Valente not really putting up too much of a fight, slotting into that 2nd place, maybe choosing his battles. He's going to have to choose this one, though, because Leon Köhler in the BMW pressuring the Ferrari, but keep an eye on Sandro Holsom. He has been getting quicker and quicker as this season has progressed. He and his twin brother have been looking very, very quick in that Audi, but now Leon Köhler in 3rd place, looking for Sandro Holsom, trying to get past him. He is looking for the 2nd place from Alan Valente. So challenges for 2nd, 3rd, 4th. To the inside goes Leon Köhler into the hairpin. Alan Valente on the outside. He's going to lose not 1, but maybe 2 places. It's a drag race out of the hairpin. Sandro Holsom now alongside. Leon Köhler has that position, but Sandro Holsom alongside the Ferrari. But Valente sweeps across, shuts the door in his face. Now the heavy braking into turn 8.
Something about this Hockenheim circuit layout, isn't there? It provides fantastic racing. You got a bit of everything. You got the really high speed stuff like the Parabolica, where they're going at 265 kilometres an hour, about 160 miles an hour. Then a couple of areas where you just stand on the brakes, including the Spitzkehrer, where you drop down to just over 50 kilometres an hour. It's all about not just good braking, but then getting out of the corner well, and that's what the Audi did here, wasn't it? Sandro Holsom got a really good exit as he was challenging this battle ahead of him with Leon Köhler and Alan Valente, and a great scrap going on for second place, which has just given a bit of breathing space now to the Landgraf Audi of the double champion, as he now is, Elias Seppänen. So he's about half a second clear. He's also just done the fastest lap of the race, so 1:39.5. So actually the gap is out to 1.1 seconds now, and there you can see that he's tried to get away while the others were fighting. But actually, Brian, Leon Köhler has just started to edge away from that battle as well now, so he's got his head down trying to catch the leader. And
Alan Valente was possibly looking more in the mirrors than he is ahead, because Sandra Holzem is looming in his mirrors just before Seppänen went quickest. The quickest man on the track was the bright yellow Porsche, the yellow and blue Porsche there that you saw just flashing through, the number 91, and Mikael Kapfinger didn't really get to, well, he didn't get to drive at all yesterday. His brother getting involved in an accident with Max Rice, so looking to make up for that as he comes through the field in 10th place at the moment. David Schumacher, he's a little way back, but to remind you, of course, he's carrying that success ballast as a result of that win yesterday.
So an absolute best first sector has just gone to the driver in 5th place, Mike David Ortmann, the former GT4 champion. First of the Aston Martins, 5th place at the moment in the race. He's only half a second back on that battle that's going on for 3rd as well. So the black Aston Martin, run by Volkenhorst, trying to get into that battle now. Lights ablaze, they can see him coming through. Right behind him, this is the Pro-Am leader, the Pro-Am champion, Alex Fack. Alex Schwarzer will take over for the 2nd stint. They had a good 4th place finish yesterday. They've also had a couple of overall podiums this year, haven't they?
They have, they've been very, very quick. So they got a 2nd place at Zandvoort and also a 2nd place at Spa-Francorchamps in the 2nd race. So not only quick in the Pro-Am race, but also in the overall race as well. And Alex Fack, we saw at Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany last year. We've seen him winning in Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup. We're seeing sparks fly in the air as Benjamin Heites in the Lamborghini exits the corner. Taking a very wide line is Sandro Holzem, and he has to be careful of that. Track limits always an issue here at the Hockenheimring. Into turn 2 we come. Alan Valente and Sandra Holzem, you can see the gap evolution between the two cars there. Well, my summary of that is they're blooming close. Sandra Holzem is trying to close in on Alan Valente, and you get the feeling he's going to feel the full wrath of a Holzem any moment now.
And Nico Adkin there takes the turn to get the fastest lap of the race last time around. The number 35 Aston in 7th place, currently 2nd in the Pro-Am. So he's battling the Porsche of Alex Fack ahead of him, not just for 6th, but for the lead of the Pro-Am category. There he is, making his way out of the Spitz car, accelerating up to the right-hander at turn 7. They go into that just 215 kilometres an hour, 4th gear through there, and then drag it back across to the left now for the turn 8, 2nd gear, 80 kilometre an hour corner. And then they wind their way out then through this sequence of 3 quick corners in succession to go out onto the back straight, and then coming into the Motordrome arena, where you've really got to hang on to the cars, Brian, particularly through the next right-hander here, the Mobil 1 curve at turn 12. It's so narrow on the exit, so easy to go into the gravel trap.
Yeah, ask Sebastian Vettel, he'll tell you all about that. It's a really tricky part of the circuit as we ride on board with David Schumacher. So Schumacher, who's in 9th place at the moment, but the cars to look at, I think, are the Aston Martins. As you already mentioned, Nico Hanske, fastest man on the track. Mike David Ortmann in that 5th place as well. Spoke to him yesterday, and he was kind of slightly frustrated because he felt like, well, now the season's over, they finally got a handle on that Aston Martin, and he's showing that in this race as he pressures forward. Janis Fischer from that start so far back, now coming forwards as well. He's behind Mikael Kapfinger. Kapfinger rounding out the top 10. Janis Fischer in 11th. Behind them is Quanda Mokoena. He's just found a route past Jonas Karklees.
Yeah, Fischer looks pretty rapid, doesn't he, in that HRT Mercedes, the light grey coloured car just in the middle of your shot there, trying to catch up to the number 91 machine of Kapfinger. The Porsche is about 0.4 of a second clear of him at the moment. Meanwhile, Leon Köhler in the BMW 2nd place. FK Performance driver does the absolute best first sector, takes nearly 2/10 out of Elias Seppänen through that first part of the lap. He's 1.2 seconds behind at the start of the lap. If he keeps this up, he might get that gap to under a second.
So Elias Seppänen, the double champion, the first driver we've ever been able to call a back-to-back champion in ADAC GT Masters. We saw him coming through ADAC Formula 4 Germany, make that in 2020. We've seen him rising up through the ranks. Another driver following in his footsteps, Max Rice, the very rapid young German driver in the number 5 car. Shares it with that man there, Quando Mokoena from South Africa, who's made it very clear that he wants to be more popular spectacular and more famous than his hero, Kelvin van der Linde. Well, good luck with that, mate. He's in 12th place at the moment, using all the curbs. He's been loving it this season, hopes to be back next season, and we sincerely hope so too. His teammate, Janis Fichter, well up the road ahead of him. Janis there in 11th place, still challenging Mikael Kappfinger.
Yeah, it's really impressive, isn't it? The amount of really rapid GT drivers that have been coming out of South Africa of late. Of course, you got the Van der Linde brothers, Sheldon, the 2022 DTM champion, Kelvin, who's fought so hard to try and win this year's DTM championship. Jordan Pepper, a very rapid GT racer as well. You got young Leighton Fury, who's coming up through GT4 now and who won the BMW M2 Cup last year. And then Kwanda Mokoena doing a pretty good job in his first full season of GT Masters as well. So on the up now as a country in terms of the delivery of excellent young upcoming GT drivers that they get out of South Africa. So that gap from first to second did come down to under a second, so 0.992 seconds. Wasn't much between them through the first sector. They go through the second sector, the middle sector, and we'll see if the gap comes down. But it is the fastest lap of the race last time around to Leon Kohler, so he's giving it everything to try and get one last win. Even if they didn't win the championship yesterday, they'll try and go out on a high. The BMW much more competitive today.
I think they've got a point to prove here, and they're the rivals in the championship all season long. You can see on the picture on the left-hand side of your screen of Elias Seppinen. You can see how hard he's working at the wheel. Great camera angle there as we look at our race leader. Leon Kohler has taken about a 10th out of that now, so the gap is kind of opening and closing, but Kohler looking to have the pace. Of course, it's all about preservation in this as well. We don't have tyre changes in ADAC GT Masters. You need to look after the rubber. You need to make sure that when your co-pilot gets into the seat of that car, he's got something with that relates to grip just a little bit. He's got brakes and he's got 4 wheels on the wagon, so you need to look after it, because whatever mess the car is in when you come in for the pit stop, your co-driver is going to have to inherit it and bring it home. So it's not about just going flat out, and Seppinen will be aware of that as well. He's not just going to go flat out at the front and open up a massive gap, because Tom Callender will need grip when this race is getting towards its closing stages. And you can see how deep into the corner Seppinen went, whether that is a lack of grip or just taking a different line. But you saw Leon Kohler in the mighty BMW just keeping himself ever present in the background. The car's kicking up the sparks as we head towards bonfire night here. Hockenheimring, the Lamborghini in particular, always looking impressive. And there at the back at the moment, Jamo Hartling in the number 11 car in 17th place.
Yeah, it's a photographer's dream, that, isn't it? The Lambo goes over the curbs and kicks up those sparks as it bottoms out. Looks absolutely spectacular. So, just keeping an eye on the times of the Ferrari in third place of Alain Valente, the Emile Frey racing car, because he was a bit quicker than the 2 ahead of him on the previous lap. Through this lap, he is also taking a bit of time out of them, particularly the middle of the lap. It's a couple of tenths quicker through that middle sector than the race leader, Elias Seppinen. So Valente is pushing on in the Ferrari to try and get back on terms with the top 2. They're just coming into the final 2 turns now at 16 and then turn 17, the stud curver. And Valente is bringing with him Sandro Holzem. Has been really impressive so far, hasn't he, in the Audi?
Yes, Sandro Holzem. I think I've mentioned it already. I'll say it again. The Holzem twins, who seem to have been getting quicker and quicker as the season's gone on. The 2 of them working well together. We saw them in ADAC GT for Germany a couple of years ago, but they've really stepped up to the mark in a GT Masters. Of course, Sandro Holzem, who guested last year as well. There is David Schumacher in the number 2 car. Mikael Kappfinger just behind him, and Janis Fichter, who's looking pretty eager to get past both of them. Meanwhile, a couple of laps ago, Leon Kohler, who recorded the quickest lap time of all, a 1:39.129. So Leon Kohler not allowing Elias Seppinen to have it all his own way, not allowing him to get away. Janis Fichter lining up Kappfinger. This is for 10th place as they head in towards the hairpin, flat out along the parabolica. Then the heavy braking, a launch to the inside for Benjamin Heites. That's on Nico Handke. That is for 7th place. Nico Handke will remain in 2nd in the Pro-Ams, but loses a position in the overall race. I'd say that was fairly textbook in terms of overtaking.
Yeah, I wonder if Nico's got a bit of an issue, because on the previous lap, he lost nearly a second. He had a slow lap and did a 1:40.5, and those around him are doing mid to 1:39s, 1:39.6 is 7. So it was fairly easy pickings, as you say, in the end, for Benjamin Heites, who just got down the inside of him without even having to brake super late to get that place. So just keep an eye on that Aston Martin, because he's definitely been off the pace for the last lap and a half or so, and having gone well earlier on, Hanke now drops down to 8th place, and then David Schumacher with the next one to come up to him, and he might bring with him Kapfinger. They are 9th and 10th in the Mercedes and Porsche respectively.
So the first 4 running very much together. You're looking there at Benjamin Heites in that 8th place. Nico Hanke trying to come back at him. And that is the 4th place, Sandro Holzem. So the first 4, pretty nose to tail. I mean, there's not a lot between them, and it could change in the blink of an eye. Of course, we've got the pit window that will open in 8 minutes' time, and that will change the dynamic of the race anyway. But Sandro Holzem starting to look impatient behind the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. The gap of 0.8 of a second, well, to me, it looks like that's come down a bit, although the timing screens are suggesting otherwise. But no, he is closing down on him, is Sandro Holzem. So challenging Alan Valente is ahead in towards the hairpin, under braking once again. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Then a gap back to Mike David Ortman. Ortman, who is 1.4 seconds back from that lead battle.
Yeah, Nico Hanke a bit worried about his car. He did a 141.3 last time around as well. Well, everybody around him is quicker than that, and that was even slower than that before. I know he had to concede the position at the Spitzkehrer, but still a bit worrying for the second Aston Martin. So struggling at the moment with something on that car, and this trio starting to catch him. The Aston Martin just going through your shot lights on the white, blue and red car. It's the one that's struggling for lap times for the last couple of laps, and then we've got this trio trying to catch him up. A warning flag going out for track limits to Sandro Holzem in the Audi, which runs in 4th place. All dropping a wheel off the curb, aren't they, coming out through the Mobil 1 curve, that really quick right-hander that leads them into the stadium arena. They take that at 165 kilometres an hour, and 4th gear is a rapid 90-degree right-hander. So
Janis Fichtner has put the pressure onto Mikael Kapfinger. He's closed up on him. David Schumacher there as well. And Kapfinger now in that awkward situation. If he wants to challenge the Mercedes in front, he may well let the Mercedes behind him through. Also in the background is Juanda Mocoena as well. But David Schumacher absolutely wrestling that Mercedes around, giving it everything he's got. Janis Fichtner shows himself on the inside of car 91. Mikael Kapfinger then ducks back in behind. But Janis Fichtner, very quick, closed that big gap that was there. Juanda Mocoena behind them, 2.5 seconds. We'll keep an eye on that to see if he can join this fight as well. There's the lead 4 coming around the hairpin. It is Elias Seppänen, Leon Kerlin, Alan Valente and Sandro Holzem. Then a gap back to Mike David Ortman and Alex Fack, who is our leading Pro-Am driver.
Nobody's really getting away from anybody here, are they? So it's really tight. I mean, you've only got 9.7 seconds covering the top 10 in this race. We've been going for 20 minutes already, so really tight stuff out there. And it just shows that the pit stop can make a big difference as well. If you get it nailed on and get as close to that minimum pit stop time as you can as a team, and you also nail the in and the out laps in terms of the drivers, and you can gain a couple of seconds there, it's worth 2 or 3 positions in this race with it being so tight. So Seppänen leading by 0.9 of a second, coming into turn 16 now, with Leon Köhler in the BMW chasing down the Mercedes. A second behind him, the Ferrari of Valente. Right behind him, Sandro Holzem in the Audi, but having had a warning for track limits. They now come over the start-finish line, no change of position. Just sort of slipping back from them now is Mike David Ortman in the leading Aston Martin in 5th place, and then the Pro-Am leader Alex Fack in 6th place overall. Benjamin Heites 7th in the Lamborghini, and 2nd in the Pro-Ams. Nico Hanke does another slightly iffy lap, 1:40.4, so he's not as bad as that 1:41 he did a few laps ago, but he can't get into the 1:39s, which most of the others around him are doing.
Keep an eye on 6th placed Alex Fack. He is the leading Pro-Am driver. The pit window, as we already mentioned, will open in well under 5 minutes time, about 4 minutes and 15 seconds from now. And if Alex Fack were to pit, he would have a pit stop that would be 15 seconds shorter than the cars in front of him. It means that he would, if the gaps were as they are at the moment, emerge 9 seconds in the lead of this race. Of course, we've still got a bit of time to go, but the Pro-Am Pro-Am drivers are going to figure very much in the results as this race unfolds. We've still got less than 4 minutes until that pit window. We ride on board with Leon Köhler, a great view through the front grille of that BMW, bearing down on Elias Seppänen. The gap, 0.855 last time across the start-finish line. So Seppänen pushing hard, but Leon Köhler pushing even harder. Alan Valente, 1.274 behind them, and Sandro Holzum about half a second back from him. So the first four, they've broken clear, but you just get the feeling that this could change in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, Köhler is really ragging that BMW, isn't he, to try and squeeze every thousandth of a second out of it. He's having to drive flat out just to keep with Seppänen, but he's keeping up the pressure on the champion of 2024 and 2023. Look how he rides the curbs there on the way out of the Nord curve. The BMW stays within about 0.4 of a second of the Mercedes. They're about a second and a half clear of Valente now, and that Ferrari in third. 1:39.9 for Köhler last time around, was 0.3 quicker than the race leader. It's also quicker than the 3 cars behind him. The only other one in the top 10 that's in the 1:39s at the moment is Alex Fack, who did a 1:39.5 and was the second quickest, sorry, 1:39.7 was actually the quickest driver on that last lap. So Fack doing another impressive job in the Porsche.
Told you he was quick. Alex Fack always there in the background, and having taken those 2 podiums, would dearly love to get another one. Now look at Leon Köhler tucked up close to Elias Seppänen as they head towards turn 7 and around towards turn 8. The lead challenge is very much alive. Look at that, really close now in the BMW. You can see again the gap evolution on the graphic, but it is Elias Seppänen leading, Leon Köhler putting the pressure on, and it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds around the pit stop sequence as well. To remind you, the championship is no longer open. It has been clinched by Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender. It means that these drivers are not racing for points, they're racing for silverware. They want to finish on the podium, and Alex Fack would dearly love to do that in the overall race. Leading the Pro-Am race, second in the Pro-Ams, Nico Handke in 8th. In third in the Pro-Am race, in 13th place overall, is Jonas Karklis, the first Lithuanian driver to ever stand on a GT Masters podium. He's in 13th place at the moment, and in the last of the podium positions, finally, Janis Vitscher sees the gap on the inside coming out of turn 17. He tucks back behind Kapfinger, now in towards turn 1. He darts to the left, he darts to the right. Still, he's unable to get that Mercedes into any kind of gap. He goes very wide on the exit of the corner, cuts back in behind the Porsche. What's he going to do as they head into turn 4 and then around to the Parabolica? Will he have the power to pick up a slipstream and get past that Porsche? We're about to find out, because it's flat out here around this corner, the fastest part of the circuit, and it feels like Kapfinger in the Porsche just has more grunt in a drag race. How are they going to look under braking? That's coming up now towards the hairpin. Kapfinger goes to the left. Vitscher follows him under braking. Still no place changes, or is there? Has a little look to the inside, but too far back to do anything about it.
Yeah, Janis Vitscher in the Mercedes. Looks like that car is handling really nicely in the turns. He's able to kind of just put it where it wants. You can see him able to move around in the corners to try and show his nose and unsettle the Porsche driver ahead of him. But Kapfinger having none of it at the moment. You're right, though. I think he couldn't quite live with the Porsche on the fast middle sector there coming out through the Parabolica. But through the twisty bits, that Mercedes looks very nicely handling. He's got the pit window open now as well. So they come out through turn 12. All over the curbs goes the Porsche. Following suit is the Mercedes. He's got under braking as well. Closes up on the way into the Sachs curve. A slightly wider line there for Kapfinger coming out of the turn. They weave their way now through the next sequence of corners at turns 14 and 15 into the right-hander at turn 16, and he's going to dive for the pits, isn't he? Kapfinger has had enough of this battle. My brother can do this, he says. I'm coming into the pits. So in to make their pit stops come David Schumacher and also Mikael Kapfinger, and they are the first to pit, and everybody's got to come in now within the next 9.5 minutes or so.
That's a fairly early start for David Schumacher. Here comes Salmon Vega, his seat insert in hand. So they'll tear David Schumacher out of the car, get him out of the way as quickly as possible. No major rush, because they've got 95 seconds. No, they haven't got the 85 seconds for pit. 70 seconds. It was going down. If at this rate, it'll be nothing. 70 seconds for pit entry to pit exit for these drivers. Minimum pit stop time. So Schumacher gets out. The seat insert goes in for Salmon Ovega. He jumps into the seat of that car. Also coming in, Jemo Hartling. He's going to be handing over to to Marcel Marchevitz, again with seat insert in hand. The drivers get out, so they've got plenty of time just to take it easy, make sure they get it right. Limited to only 2 mechanics to work on the car, so you can't have anything done apart from checking tyre pressures. The outgoing driver helps the incoming driver to get buckled up and plugged in. Any notes will be swapped over, the safety netting put across. He'll wish him good luck, slam the door shut, pick up his seat insert and return to the garage. His work is done for the 2024 season. It's now down to Marcel Marchevitz to bring the car home and hopefully get some silverware, but at the moment they were running stone last in this race, so a lot of work to do. Sam Vega is on the move, also not Juliana Holzem, the other one, Katfinger, Johannes Katfinger, who's taken over from his brother, now at the wheel of the 91 car, out onto track as well. Here comes the race leader, Elias Sepinen, still waiting out on track. He's got 8 minutes to come in.
A second and third have just come in as well. Leon Köhler in the BMW, Alain Valente in the Ferrari coming into the pits. More or less takes 4/5 of a lap to make your pit stop. With those that made their pit stops coming out just before the race leaders had come back round into turn 1. Flash of the headlights there, and this is the Porsche driver trying to get through on a car which has just come out of the pits. On Tuerza in the Lamborghini. In fact, looks to the outside, that line is covered. This will be frustrating for him, but then diving wide is the Lamborghini, missing the braking point and then fumbling for gears by the looks of it, and he still hasn't got the car up to speed. So Gerhard Teresa is struggling now. He's cruising and having to avoid him as everybody else as they get on the throttle coming out of the Spitzkehrer. So I suspect he's knocked it out again. He can't get it in, or he's got a gearbox-related issue. It's creeping along at the moment, and he's going to have to pull off the circuit onto the infield.
Well, I hope he can get it onto the infield, because otherwise we're going to need a safety car. Gerhard Teresa, who has been playing musical chairs with the cars this year. We've seen him in several different cars and several different teams, but it's in the Grasser Racing Lamborghini where he's had most success, but clearly issues getting it slowed down into the hairpin and then getting it back under power on the exit of the hairpin. The car crawling, you saw how close the cars came behind to having to take avoiding action. Now the car on the side of the track, I think we're going to get at the very least a full course yellow here, if not a safety car. It would probably need to be a full course yellow because the pit window is open and our race stewards don't like bringing out safety cars when the window is open. Into the pits comes the race leader, Elias Sepinen, getting ready to hand over to Tom Callender with 6 1/4 minutes remaining of the pit window. So Elias Sepinen is done for a very, very successful 2024 season. He can now put his feet up and enjoy Christmas because Tom Callender is going to jump into the seat and it'll be his job to bring the #1 car home in the #1 position. It means that Sandro Holzem inherits the lead. He is yet to make a stop. Mike David Ortman in second. Alex Fack, who I predict was going to stay out for about another 5 minutes, is the leading Pro-Am car. We've still got Teresa stationary out on track, though. We haven't got a full course yellow or a safety car at the moment, so maybe we can get this off without actually having any kind of caution.
Yeah, and a caution now would have been great news for the drivers that have just started in the pits. Sepinen handing over to his teammate Callender, and Janus Fitcher handing over the #3 Mercedes as well as they come in. So he's in the Hap racing car. Finn Wiebelhaus will take over that one. And it is Max Osten that's in the leading pit-stopping BMW at the moment. So we're going to keep an eye on his progress with Jean-Luc Doria coming out next. They just go over the start-finish line. The BMW just about to go into turn 1. So you'll see it in the background. So Tom Callender is going to get out still with the net lead of the race. There is Osten, a bit further back than that BMW was before the pit stops. And then the Ferrari, now driven by Jean-Luc Doria. They're effectively the top 3 once all of the pit stops are sorted and done and dusted. And Mike David Ortman now comes into the pits in his Volkenhorst Aston Martin. I'm wondering if Landgraf Motorsport might have called Elias Sepinen earlier than they'd originally planned in anticipation of a full course yellow coming out because of that stranded car. But it hasn't worked because we're not under full course yellow. We've got the yellows waving. It's a localized yellow, so the drivers will need to show that they are slowing for the Teresa car. But there's no need to actually have a full
full course yellow by the looks of things. Right, the Finn Wiebelhaus, who's now at the wheel of the number 3 car, having visited the pits. So it's Finn Wiebelhaus in 13th place at the moment, but of course a lot of cars in front still to stop. Johannes Kapfinger there as well. And again, another of the cars that suddenly ducked into the pits, went to a racer, came to a stop. And again, I'm wondering whether they were trying to anticipate a full course yellow. Well, it hasn't worked because we're still running under green flag conditions.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense what you've said there. If you think somebody's gone off and they might well be bringing out the full course yellow or a safety car, then you dart for the pits. And if you, as long as you get into the pits before it's announced as a full course yellow, it still catches your pit stop. Oh dear, Kapfinger has just destroyed some more track furniture. I think we had the BWT sign being destroyed yesterday by, well, the Ferrari amongst others on the start-finish straight, and that was the back end of a wide moment, wasn't it? I think, yeah, it's coming in towards the Sachs curve. I can see from the commentary box window. That's been obliterated. Motorsports side has completely gone now.
So welcome to Motorsport, everybody, because an editor was going to take the other side off. This is looking from the front, and there we go. It's auto.com. There we go. Great advertising, actually. But a little bit of additional furniture on the car as well, because he hasn't shaken it all off, as some of it wedged in the front there. Doesn't appear to have slowed him too much. So he continues on his way in 12th place. Behind him is Max Rice, who's taken over from Kwanda Mokoeno. And it was these two pilots who got together yesterday. So Max Rice will be quite keen to make a clean move on Johannes Kapfinger if he can catch him. Right, race leader into the pits as well. So Sandro handing over to his brother Giuliano. So into the pits they come. The smoke pouring from the brakes. That's how hard they've been pushing. Alex Fack, as predicted, staying out on track for as late as possible, inherits the lead. Benjamin Heites in second ahead of Nico Hanska. All three of those yet to pit. Jonas Karklees also in. He's handing over to Pablo Schum. Yeah,
I think the race director will always be aware of the fact that, you know, if there's during the pit stop phase, there is a full course yellow or a safety car, that can obviously affect the results either massively positively or massively negatively for a team that's got the pit stop timing through no fault of their own on the right or wrong side of that. So I think unless they absolutely have to, they wouldn't bring out the full course yellow or the safety car, knowing that it's going to disadvantage some and give an advantage to others. Safety, of course, is the predominant factor, but they've just gone with the yellow there. So the Audi just comes out in between, does it? Yes, in between the Mercedes and the BMW. So Holzem is up to a net second place here, but is he going to be able to fend off Max Oster, who's coming after him? Alex Fack has just come into the pits as well. Benjamin Heites also coming into the pits, I can see from the commentary box. And here we go, BMW versus Audi. The BMW is on the outside line for the right-hander that's coming up at the Spitzkehrer. Doesn't matter, he's already through. Great run there through the Parabolica. That's always the difficult thing, isn't it? For the driver getting in, you're thrown straight in at the deep end, straight into the battle. At least Max Oster has had a lap or two to get his head into gear, but for Giuliano Holzem there, it was straight into a battle with the BMW driver.
Yeah, and it was a real battle of acceleration as well, the drag race along the Parabolica. Right, so a racer's car is still there. I reckon that once the pit window is closed, we're going to see a full course yellow to get it moved. We've seen it in the past. I think I know how our race steward operates. I may be wrong, but I think once the window has closed and all the drivers are back out, I think we may well see a caution of some sort to get that Lamborghini moved. Alex Fack has handed over to Alexander Schwarzer, the bronze-rated driver, so it means that they get an advantage of 15 seconds in terms of a shorter pit stop. It means that Fack should emerge from the pits, not Fack, Alex Schwarzer now should emerge from the pits in the Fack car, well in front of the other runners. So he gets up to speed. Out onto track comes the number 4 car, and the race leaders, I'm just looking to see where they are out on track.
Turn 1.
They're up in turn 1, so he hasn't managed to get out. He has got out in front, but how long can he hold on to that? So after the pit stops are done, Tom Callender is in the 3rd place at the moment. Chandler Hull ahead. So the Pro-Am drivers now have jumped into 1st and 2nd as as a result of that shortened pit stop, it's Alexander Schwarzer who leads the way, Chandler Hull in second, and Tom Callender, with all the chasing to do, the early race leader, heading in towards the hairpin.
Full course yellow in 10 seconds. You're absolutely right, Brian. So it's not going to take them long to move it, though, is it? So it will be a very short full course yellow period, I suspect. It's a bit of respite, though, isn't it, for Schwarzer and Hull, the two lesser-rated drivers who have inherited first and second places because of their shorter pit stop, but will have more rapid drivers, in theory, coming after them. But they won't be able to catch them as long as that full course yellow is out. So they might get a couple of minutes respite, which would be good news for them. So they go past the stricken Lamborghini of Gerhard Therese now. The Grasser Racing team at Lamborghini about to be picked up by the recovery vehicle, which I think will just tow it into that infield section, the grass section, the strip in between those two bits of straight, and through it will be.
That's a great visualization of the dashboard during a full course yellow there. You can see it flashing red and green. 80 kilometers an hour is the maximum time. The drivers don't need to brake, so when the full course yellow comes out, they're meant to lift off. We might need a broom out on track before we go green, if we're honest. But the drivers don't have to hit the brakes. They need to lift off and decelerate to 80 kilometers an hour. So in theory, the gaps should remain the same. But of course, everybody lifts off at slightly different times. And when we go back to a green, everybody gets on the accelerator at different times, so the gaps very rarely stay exactly the same, but we will run around at the moment, everybody at about 80 kilometers an hour. It's like having the speed limiter on the car. You can see it flashing on the dashboard. Right, so the Therese car is removed from the circuit. It means that Taylor Hagler is not going to get a drive this afternoon, so she will go back to the USA, having had a 13th place yesterday, but that's about as good as it's going to get. Right, full course yellow at the moment, and it's going to end in 10 seconds. So it was 10 seconds, there's probably about 5 by now, so the drivers will need to anticipate it. They'll have a display on the dashboard. Here's our race leader, Alexander Schwarzer, ahead of Chandler Hull. So last time they crossed the line, it was 11.22 seconds. Tom Callender was 5.041 behind Chandler Hull. This is all going to close up, I expect. Well, we could see the other of the Aston Martins. Now, that is Chandler Hull and Tom Callender. So the last time was 5 seconds, but that has closed up. Meanwhile, behind, Juliana Holzem and Jean-Luc D'Auria running side by side. It's D'Auria trying to move up into 5th place.
Yeah, just caught out a bit, I think, by the restart there, Holzem. So the Audi on the back foot, losing a place to the Ferrari. The Porsche, the race-leading car, has gone through. And here comes Tom Callender down the inside of Chandler Hull to get second place. The Aston Martin stays out wide. And of course, Max Austin is going to follow through. So he goes into 3rd place. And this pair will now set about trying to work together, at least for now, to try and catch up to the race leader. Meanwhile, Marcel Marcevic, had such a good drive yesterday. I'm afraid the podium finisher from yesterday comes into the pits. The number 11 Mercedes in trouble.
But look at this, the fight back now. Max Austin challenging Tom Callender. This will be for 3rd place. So Max Austin, Tom Callender, they rub up against each other, shoulder to shoulder around the corners, taken fairly fast, and now gives him a nudge wide onto the gravel, past the remnants of the billboard. Now into turn 8. Is that 8 or no? It's turn 13, isn't it, that they go? But it is advantage BMW, having muscled his way past in towards turn 16 and 17, out onto the pit straight. Doesn't look like Tom Callender has got much he can respond to. And Chandler Hull, who last time they crossed the line was 5 seconds clear of them, that shows how in a full course yellow you can suddenly lose a load of time because everybody decelerates and accelerates at different times, and suddenly Chandler Hull is relegated down into 4th place. Looking again at that moment, the two cars exchanging paint, a bit of a kiss between the cars, maybe a bit of a snog as they go around the remnants of the billboard. Kevin, a bit of elbow, have some of that, he says, out onto the gravel. Tom Callender keeps his foot on it, but the BMW is through. Max Austin takes no prisoners. We've seen that in the past. That is what taking no prisoners looks like.
I reckon Chandler Hull will be 6th next time we see him. He got D'Auria and Olsen queuing up on the way into turn 1, and indeed they've already got through when we see them back live at the Spitzkehrer. So in fact there was a big lap down the inside into the Nordkurve at turn 1, but I think it must have happened at turn 2. So the Aston Martin loses another couple of places. Now Max Austin is being told you've got to give the place back for incorrect overtaking. So he's going to have to give that second place back to Tom Callender. That's all going to benefit Alex Schwarzer, because as those two wait for each other, he continues to lead the race by over 7 seconds. There is Austin giving the place back to Callender. So Callender back up to second place now in the Landgraf Mercedes. Austin goes past that stricken remaining polystyrene advertising hoarding that was wiped out a few laps ago. And we've had a spin for Chandler Hall coming out of turn 11, the Mobil 1 curve. So having dropped to 6th, that's going to be way down the order now. So that will put Tim Zimmerman's Lamborghini up to 6th place. Dennis Bolotov in the Aston Martin up to 7th. And then Samuel Vega up to 8th place in the number 2 Mercedes.
Oh, there we are, going backwards. This is a replay of Tom Callender retaking that position on the instruction from the race directors, getting involved in this race and deciding that was an illegal move. That was the moment that Chandler Hull went spinning. Fortunately, able to avoid any barriers or any other cars, so able to rejoin Tim Zimmerman, sailing through and taking that position away. Right, now we've got to do it all again. Max Austin, elbows out, once again, to the outside, into the hairpin. He's going to try and go the long way around, under braking. How good can he slow the BMW down? Is he going to cut back to the inside? Now the acceleration out of the hairpin towards turn 7. Callender's got him covered off. As long as this is happening, this is benefiting Alexander Schwarzer. The gap between first and second of this battle was 7.588 seconds last time around. And as long as they're fighting side by side, they're not closing in on the leader. I'll tell you who is closing in though. Jean-Luc D'Auria in 4th place. Fancies getting involved in this fight as well. Also Juliana Holzem. This two-way battle could well be a four-way battle any moment now.
Yeah, they're as quick as the race leader on this lap, but they're not quicker than him because they're battling each other so hard. So Schwarzer keeping them at bay, keeping that gap at about 7.5 seconds. He's just coming into turn 17 at Sudcurva. Now into turn 16 comes this battle for second place. Tom Callender, Max Austin and Jean-Luc D'Auria there, as you say, in the Ferrari, catching them up. Tried to go around the outside of the Spitzkehrer. The hairpin was Max Austin, but let me tell you, as a racing driver, there is nothing more embarrassing than somebody driving around the outside of you. It's not supposed to happen. The longer route, less grip, somebody comes around the outside of you, you feel properly mugged off. So Callender was never going to let that happen. You saw from the onboard just how much he's having to wrestle the car, though, through these fast sequence of corners at the start of the lap, just to keep the BMW behind him. The pressure is coming, but Austin has got to pull off a clean move here, because if he only gets it half right and has to back off out of a move, he might lose his own third place here to the Ferrari.
17 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this 2024 season, and we are fighting for the silverware. The championship is decided, but this is for glory. Diving up the inside, Jean-Luc D'Auria, little bit of contact. Everybody survives. I think D'Auria might be remembering Spa-Francorchamps, where he started on pole position, and he and Tom Callender got together into last source, and the net result of that was D'Auria pointing in the wrong direction. And he's like, well, maybe I can dive bomb both of them. Well, it didn't quite stick in this particular instance, but the night is young, and Juliana Holzem is about to join in on this one as well. Car 10 under investigation for speeding under a full course yellow, Eduardo Cosseteng, and in the meantime we've also lost Marcel Marchevitz, so Schnitzerland Racing retiring the Mercedes. Let's have another look at that, and well, he tried to do a La Source first on Tom Callender and then secondly on Max Austin. Pleased to say he backed out of it. Everybody survived. It's what we like to see. Good, hard racing in ADAC GT Masters.
Had visions of a Mercedes, a BMW and a Ferrari all going off then. A very happy Audi driver getting past all three of them, but it didn't quite happen. Just got out of it in time, just nicked the side of the BMW there. Has given a bit of breathing space now to Tom Callender, who's certainly a second clear of them. There he is in the copper and white liveried Mercedes, the #1 car coming through for Landgraf, the 2024 champion, having wrapped up the title just 16 years of age yesterday. Austin, though, has now started to shake off the Ferrari of Jean-Luc D'Auria. And if they get into a scrap, I think the Audi of Juliana Holzem will be able to get involved, but he's not quite, I mean, he's almost, but not quite as quick as them at the moment. So he needs them to trip over each other to get involved in that battle. But he looks over the shoulder and sees nobody. There's a massive gap back to Tim Zimmerman in the Lamborghini. Currently, number 63 running 8.5 seconds behind them in 6th place. So the gap has now started to come down between Schwarzer and Callender, 6.5 seconds. But look at this, a whole rafter of penalties for speeding under full course yellow.
Yes, Kosseteng is one of them in car 10. The other is Marcel Marchevitz in 11. Well, he's retired anyway. Kosseteng's in 15th place. Also Chandler Hull in car 35. He's down in 11th place at the moment. Right to the inside, Salman Ovega on Dennis Bulatov. This is for 7th place. Steals that one away with relative ease. Following through on his coattails, Finn Wiebelhaus powering past the Aston Martin as well. So not losing 1 place, but 2. Dennis Bulatov feeling a little bit sore after that lap.
Right, coming out towards the start-finish line, the race leader, Alex Schwarzer, in the FAC Autotech Porsche, crosses the line. Lap time, 1 minute 41.2 seconds. Tom Callender in the Mercedes goes through. Lap time, 1 minute 40.2 seconds. So a second quicker. The gap is down to 5.6 seconds, so another 5 laps, maybe 6 laps, and the gap is going to be down to nothing, and therefore we are talking, with that amount of time remaining, there's probably going to be about 6 or 7 minutes left on the clock, where they are pretty much nose to tail for the lead of the race.
This is shaping up to be a grandstand finish, a grandstand finale, the last race of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. The leader, Alexander Schwarzer, leading the way. The new champion, Tom Callender, closing in. Second in the championship, challenged all the way. Max Osten closing in on him as well. You throw in Jean-Luc D'Oria, Giuliano Holzem as well, and it could be a 5-way battle for the lead before this race is over. We've got 13.25 minutes remaining of this season, and it's still all to play for in ADAC GT Masters, race 12 of the season.
Yeah, 5 of them are going to be fighting for 3 places on the podium, aren't they, at the end of this race? Schwarzer trying to get his head down, but he lost half a second to Callender through the first sector alone. Through the second sector, though, which is the longest sector, he only lost 0.2 of a second. So overall, probably still going to be a second a lap that they're catching him by. But it was pretty decent in the middle portion of the lap in that Porsche. It's just coming out into turn 17 now. That is the view back to Jean-Luc D'Oria from Max Osten's BMW. Max in 3rd, Jean-Luc currently in 4th place, and then Giuliano Holzem in the background in the Audi running in 5th. Right, the leader goes through to 141.5 versus a 140.4 for Callender, so 1.1 seconds quicker. The gap now 4.5 seconds.
Alexander Schwarzer leading the way as Holzem takes a very wide line out of turn 1. There was a time earlier on in the season, without wishing to be rude, where you'd have said Alexander Schwarzer would be easy picking, so he's a bronze-rated driver. But under the tutorship of Alex Fack, has got quicker and quicker and is able to hold it against many of the silver drivers. He's leading this race. It's going to be a lot of pressure for him, but it's possible that Alexander Schwarzer could take his first ever win in the ADAC GT Masters. He can see his rivals fighting amongst themselves in his rearview mirror. He'd be quite happy if they carried on doing that. Jean-Luc D'Oria once again having another little look at Max Osten. We can see on board with Max Osten in the picture on the left-hand side of your screen. So the BMW of Max Osten into turn 8, the left-hander just ahead of them, Tom Callender, who's now broken clear of that battle. Is this all that we're going to see from Max Osten, or can he come back at Tom Callender?
That Ferrari's really good under the brakes, isn't it, on the way into the spit scare. Jean-Luc D'Oria absolutely gobbles them up under braking into the hairpin. So keep an eye next time. If you can get within a car and a half length coming through Parabolica, I think he'll have a go. He's very, very good under braking, so that's the view back to him. The BMW right on board with the Max Osten, trying to keep him at bay, but also trying to get back on terms with Callender. Remember, early on in the stint, after Callender had come out and joined the race, Osten was able to get past him, then had to give the position up for unfair overtaking, and it felt like he was going to then just do the same thing again a couple of laps later. But since then, Callender has found a bit more rhythm and has maybe, I don't know, looked after the tyres a bit better, or maybe just been a bit smoother and less involved in scraps. I suppose Osten has had to fend off that Ferrari a couple of times, hasn't he? And he's just given himself this bit of breathing space now, which has freed him up to go for the race leader. The gap, by the way, is down to 3.5 seconds now, so it's a second a lap, which means in 4 laps' time, with, yeah, it's going to be about 6 minutes, maybe 5 minutes left on the clock, he should have the top 2 together.
This is going to be a massive test for Alexander Schwarzer, putting all the lessons he's learned to good use. He's got a 16-year-old charger who is on a high, having clinched the championship last year. And this is the view from that 16-year-old's perspective, driving the #1 Landgraf Motorsport Mercedes towards turn 8. The left-hander under braking once again. He can now see the race leader up ahead of him. When you've got a target to chase, they say it's easier. So that is exactly what Callender is doing, chasing the target. Some great shots here as the cars bump over the curbs. There, the gold and white Mercedes AMG, an earlier shot of replay with Max Osten doing everything to monster that car out of the way. In the background also the Emma Fry Racing Ferrari 296 with Jean-Luc Doria at the wheel, and there is Juliana Holzem. Some wonderful shots here at the Hockenheimring in this season finale.
Yeah, Schwarzer's conceding a second a lap to Callender, and half a second of that comes in the first sector. The first sector is pretty short, and he takes in as 2 quick right-handers at the Nord curve and the Bernie Eccleston curve, turns 1 and 2, and then the little right-left connection through turns 3 and 4. But that's where he's losing almost half of his time, so in that quick section of the circuit. So we can do something about that. He might give himself a bit more chance, but 2.1 seconds is now the gap. You're on board with Callender, and he's been encouraged all the time, isn't he? See that Porsche getting closer, getting bigger in his view, and he knows he's doing the right things. He knows that the momentum is with him, and then on the flip side, for Schwarzer, he feels like he's driving the wheels off the car. He looks in the mirrors and thinks, I'm still being caught there. They're still catching me. That Mercedes is coming, and he can't help but tense up.
And that will almost inevitably slow him down the more tense he gets. So there is first, second, third and fourth running together. Alexander Schwarzer in the Pro-Am category is our leading Pro-Am driver, and even if the first 4 cars were to get past him, or the 4 behind him were to get past him, he would still win in the Pro-Am race, because second in the Pro-Ams is Chandler Hull, all the way down in 13th place. Third in the Pro-Ams is Pablo Schum. Make that second, as Pablo Schum has now found a route past Chandler Hull, whose afternoons appears to be going from bad to worse. So Schum up into 13th place, Chandler Hull down into 14th. 7 3/4 minutes remaining. There's your race leader, first, second, third and fourth. That's the top 4 there. Look how wide Tom Callender is going, and especially into turn 1. He needs to be careful not to attract the attention of the stewards. There is no grip on the exit of turn 16 and 17 either, I can tell you that. In towards turn 1. Once again, he's taken a very wide line, as wide as he dared, just keeping it within the track limits. There's the race leader, still 4th place, Jean-Luc Doria, flashing the lights, trying to distract Max Osten, under braking, trying to force him into making a mistake to see if he can elevate himself up onto the podium to take a trophy home for him and his teammate. Out along the Parabolica, turn 5, once again towards the hairpin, flat out all the way here. This is where the straight line speed of the cars really shows, and then under braking into the hairpin.
Yeah, so almost there now. 6 3/4 minutes to go. Callender within a few tenths of a second of Schwarzer. Schwarzer's got to really dig deep now. It's going to be hard to fend Callender off. It's going to be hard to fend the next 2 off as well. He could be missing out on a podium if he's not careful, because Osten and Doria will be looking to get past that Porsche between now and the checkered flag as well. It's not just 6 minutes and 23 seconds to go. It's +1 lap as well. So realistically, he's got about 8 minutes to try and hang on to this, and that's going to be difficult when he's losing a second a lap to Tom Callender. So Callender homing in now on the Porsche as they come into the arena section, into the Sachs Curve. They turn left through there. Jean-Luc Doria's got that Ferrari 296 handling beautifully around this part of the course. He's all over the back of Max Osten's BMW as they come now into turn 16. Again, he's got on the brakes. He has a little luck up the inside, but Osten is able to fend him off for the time being. So they remain in 3rd and 4th. You look back to the 4th place Ferrari as the top 2 come over the line. The gap has come down from 1.1 seconds to 0.6 seconds. So Schwarzer responded a little bit there. 141.5 versus a 140.9. He only lost 0.6 of a second. But you get the sense, Brian, when they get down to the hairpin next time out, that Porsche is going to have to become ultra wide.
he's going to have to make it very wide indeed. And I expect Max Oster would be quite happy if those two could fight amongst themselves for a bit, because that would bring him back into this lead battle. But the Mercedes looking mighty, especially with Tom Callender at the wheel. So here we go towards the hairpin once again. So which way will Callender go? He goes to the inside under braking. Can he get it slowed down? Yes, he can. Beautifully done. Schwarzer will try and come back at him. The drag race towards the next turn out of the hairpin, turn 7. They'll take that flat out, but it looks like he's got the job done. We have a new race leader. Tom Callender takes the lead of the race. Schwarzer down into 2nd place. Max Osten there in 3rd place. Having another look here. Callender ducks to the inside. He tries to sell the dummy. Schwarzer goes to the outside to block, and then Callender ducks back to the inside. A black and white flag for Jean-Luc D'Auria for failing to manage track limits. That is a warning. There's also one being awarded to Juliana Holzem, and also to car number 1. Our race leader, Tom Callender, has had a warning for track limits. We saw him going very wide in turn 1, and if they get another one of those, they may well get some kind of penalty. So it might not be over yet for Alexander Schwarzer. Max Osten is loitering in the background. Then it is Jean-Luc D'Auria, the car that started on pole position. 4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this season, and we have the new champion leading the way along with his co-driver, the successfully defended champion Elias Seppänen at the front, but with a black and white flag hovering over his head. 2nd place, the bronze rated in the Pro-Am category, Alexander Schwarzer, and Max Osten, the last of the podium positions. This could all change in the next 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap.
Here comes Max Osten then, absolutely flat out through the parabolica, looking to slingshot to the outside, which gives him the inside line for the hairpin. He's going to go through and into 2nd place, but what about the Ferrari? He's going to lunge as well. Of course he is. He lunges down the inside. There's contact between the Porsche and the Ferrari. Sparks trail from Jean-Luc D'Auria as he gets over the curbs on the exit, but he has got through, and now Holzem is going to try and do the same as well. So Holzem right at the back of the rear wing of the Porsche. Here's the gap, here's the line, here's the opportunity. Holzem dives down the inside, and back has gone from 1st down to 5th in the blink of an eye. So Callender leads, Osten and D'Auria up to 2nd and 3rd now. They had to get past the Porsche ASAP because they still fancy their chances of trying to catch Callender for the outright race win.
Alexander Schwarzer is feeling bullied. They're ganging up on me, he says. Relegated all those positions as everybody comes steaming through. You open the door for 1, you open the door for 2. Sometimes you open the door for 3. The gap on the inside. This is the view from Max Osten pulling alongside that Porsche on the parabolica towards the hairpin. And that was the view looking back under braking. And he saw his rival on the outside. He saw another rival steaming through on the inside, exchanging paintwork as they go round the hairpin and then back on the accelerator. It looks like everybody has survived in terms of damage, but Alexander Schwarzer relegated down into 5th place. Tim Zimmerman is some 3.7 seconds back, so 5th place should still be a good result with 2 minutes remaining.
Yeah, you got a feel from that. I mean, Schwarzer just digging in, throwing everything to try and keep them at bay. And it was like when one comes through, the doors open, the floodgates open. You know the others are going to be on you soon after. And unfortunately for him, down to 5th, you know, might be struggling to hold on to that as well, because he's been absolutely het up his advantage here by Tim Zimmerman in that Lamborghini. There's only be a couple of seconds behind him at the end of this lap. So 1.5 minutes plus a lap to go. Is the battle for 2nd place between Osten, who's been shadowed all the way through this stint, hasn't he, by Jean-Luc D'Auria and the Ferrari. The Ferrari's really quick coming through these twisty sections at turns 8 and 9. He's quick as well through Sachs Curve and turns 14 and 15. The BMW just able to keep him at bay for now as they come into the right-hander at the Mobile 1 curver. The Audi much closer than he's been for a few laps as well. Holzem then, so they come into the Sachs curve of the left-hander. This is where the Ferrari really comes into its own now, but that Audi looks the quicker of the 3 at the moment. So Holzem trying to get his first podium of the season, be a nice bookend to what was a really difficult start to the season. As looking at the inside into turn 16 is Jean-Luc D'Auria, backs off out of it. Then the BMW of Osten keeps him at bay, but the Ferrari trying an unlikely move there. He has had to get off the throttle though, which puts him under pressure now from the Audi.
2 laps remaining of this race for Tom Callender. He starts his penultimate lap, heads towards turn 1 and turn 2. Max Osten in second place, looking a little bit more secure, but Jean-Luc D'Oria and Juliana Holzem fighting for all their worth. As you say, that Audi has been looking very rapid. Has felt like only a matter of time before he's going to get through, but the Ferrari also handling so well and holding on to the last of the podium positions. It's allowing Max Osten just to break clear a little bit in towards the hairpin for the penultimate time. There's first, second, third and fourth in the background. 5th place Schwarzer, now with Tim Zimmermann bearing down on him. Tim Zimmermann, who wasn't able to race at the Red Bull Ring, coming back in style here in 6th place, wants to make it 5th. On board with Juliana Holzem once again. Out of turn 7, in towards turn 8 they will come, under braking. The left-hander has a look to the outside, but is unable to make a move there. All of this is allowing Max Osten to break clear.
Yeah, it's what Jean-Luc D'Oria didn't want, really, because at the section where he's quicker than the BMW, or one of the sections where he's quicker than the BMW, he's having to keep an eye and keep a check on the mirrors. And as you rightly say, that means the BMW's got a bit more of a gap now ahead in that battle for second with a lap and a bit to go. There is Alex Schwarzer in 5th place in the Porsche, but he's been gobbled up here by Tim Zimmermann in the number 63 Lamborghini. So Tom Callender looks like he's going to wrap up the season with another race win. This will be the 5th of the season for him and Elias Sepinen. He goes over the line to start the final lap of the race. Max Osten in second. 3rd place, Jean-Luc D'Oria. If you are Juliana Holzem and you're 4th and it's the last race of the season, you've got to have a go, haven't you, Brian? You've got to try and get a podium. 4th. Nobody wants to finish 4th.
Yeah, nobody needs the points. They want the silverware. They want the glory. Leading the way, Tom Callender looking for his 5th win of the season. But this fight for second place far from over. 2nd, 3rd and 4th. One of these 3 cars is not going to take a trophy home with them at the end of this lap. Which one is it going to be? At the moment, Juliana Holzem is in that non-trophy paying position. Callender has to looks to have it all covered off into the hairpin for the last time. Holzem to the inside of the Ferrari. D'Oria went to turn in. He saw it full of Audi and was unable to do it, but now on the outside he comes back as a drag race on the exit of turn 6 towards turn 7. But Sandro Juliana Holzem, after all that effort, finally gets that position. He glances in the mirror. Holzem stealing what could be a podium position, but now D'Oria coming back at the Audi. Holzem goes to shut the door in his face. They're almost pushing each other around the circuit towards turn 12. They come for the final time. D'Oria back in front once again. Holzem bounces off the Ferrari and it's advantage D'Oria once again. He slides the car around the corner and all that hard work relegates Holzem back into 4th place, and that's in the background with Schwarzer going into the fence. A very heavy impact there, but in the meantime, completing the final lap of the season, it is Tom Callender, our new champion in the ADAC GT Masters, along with Elias Sepinen, who takes the win. 2nd will be Max Osten and Leon Köhler. 3rd, Jean-Luc D'Oria. What a race, along with Alan Valente. Then it is Juliana and Sandro Holzem, but we saw quite a big impact there for Alexander Schwarzer. Hopefully he's all okay. So he was leading the way in the Pro-Am race, so the door is open, and so the crew just making sure that he's all okay. That was a very big impact. I'm pleased to see that he's good. Don't know what happened there. Done all the hard work, leading the way. He punches the steering wheel. The car making a heavy impact with the fence up at turn 13, the Sachs curver, but pleased to say he's all okay. I think the only thing bruised there is probably his ego. He and teammate Alex Fack had done all the hard work. We're going to see what happened there. Well, at the moment, we're seeing this fight. What a fight that was. And it looked like it was all on his own. I think he just got a bit of curb, didn't he? And the back end snapped around.
Yeah, which means that just taking the checkered flag was a huge impact, wasn't it? The car was fully off the curb and airborne for just a second or so as well. The rain that we've had in the build-up to this weekend as well has filled those tyres in the tyre barrier. So it's a pretty heavy tyre barrier, and then the car gets absolutely splattered. So pleased to see he's okay. But of course, that means that having crossed the line now, it is a Pro-Am victory for number 8, Pablo Schum, and Jonas Karklis in the Liqui Moly Team Engstler Audi R8. Another replay of that, and of course the main thing is that Alex is okay, but he'll be absolutely gutted to end the season like that. But what a battle this was for third place. I tell you, hats off to Giuliano Holsom. You've got to have a go when you're fourth, and it's the last lap of the race. And he didn't get there in the end, but it wasn't for the want to try. There was contact between them, and Jean-Luc Doria wasn't going to let that happen, was he, on the last lap of the race? You're not mugging me of a spot on the podium, he said. There was the bit where the Ferrari was pretty well handling on the grass as well, wasn't there?
I thought he was yeah, I thought it was a bit of drifting going on. It was no surprise the stewards are taking a look at that. No, well, there's a surprise that we will confirm the 1, 2, 3, hopefully before too long, but they are having a look at that. It has been reported to the race stewards, but it gave us all something to shout about. Look at this for drifting. I thought he was going to rotate there, and good job there. In the background, there was Schwarzer, who had just gone wide, had got 2 wheels onto the gravel. We'll see him spinning around any second. The gravel became the grass, definitely no traction there. And then the car getting airborne across the curbs and just slapping side on into the tyres. Really pleased to see, because that would have just taken the breath away, I should think, sitting in the car when that happened, but he's all okay. But it does mean that Pablo Schum, along with Jonas Karklis, take their first ever win in the Pro-Am category, and it'll be the first time a Lithuanian has ever stood on the top step of the podium in ADAC GT Masters. So yet another record being recorded here at the Hockenheimring at this season closer. There is the youngest ever champion, the brand new champion. That was Tom Callender, and there is Leon Köhler coming to greet the very tall Max Osten as he gets out of the car. Now Elias Seppänen will come and join Tom Callender in just a few moments. Our champions of 2024 receiving the congratulations and rounding off a solid weekend of work. A 3rd place yesterday, a 1st place today, and a championship in the bag.
Yeah, mega season for Tom Callender and Elias Seppänen. A winner at Oschersleben the 1st weekend of the season, a winner at Zandvoort 2nd weekend of the season, a victory at the world-famous Spa-Francorchamps, then at the Red Bull Ring last time out, and a 5th win of the season coming here. They've had 3 other podiums and a 6th, a couple of 6th and an 8th, their worst results of the season. So it's been consistent, it's had the wins, it's had everything. Tom Callender, the victor of the championship for the first time. Elias Seppänen getting his 2nd championship in as many seasons and successfully defending the title. And Tom Callender, a real star of the future. Some very competitive GT3 racing. But a nice way to round out the season for Max Osten and Leon Köhler. They had to make sure they finished 2nd in the championship, because mathematically they could still have been caught by David Schumacher and Salman Avega. But that 2nd place finish for them has guaranteed that the runner-up spot in the championship, and another podium. A good end to the season, actually, for Jean-Luc Doria and Alain Valente, with podiums coming at Spa, the Red Bull Ring, and Hockenheim, the last 3 events of the season. So that wraps up the on-track action for the ADAC GT Masters Championship, and just the podium celebrations to come now for the race itself and for the overall championship. More great racing. It's been great to see the championship growing back up to good grids as well, hasn't it, in the 2024 season. I'm sure that will continue on into 2025.
Yes, well, you haven't seen the calendar yet for 2025. I think it is incoming, but I do understand that the endurance format has been universally popular, and I think we may well even see an extension of the number of endurance races that we see during 2025. And I'm hoping that Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender will be back to defend their title. But Elias Seppänen, well, I'm not going to try and do the maths because it's quite complicated, but I think Elias Seppänen will have won the Road to DTM Championship, so I think he might have his sights set on something else next year. We will keep an eye on that. You will find out soon, I have no doubt. There you go, your race winner, Tom Callender and Elias Seppänen, Max Osten and Leon Köhler. Then Jean-Luc Doria and Alain Valente surviving the carnage to come home in 3rd place. Hats off to them. The Holsom twins in 4th, ahead of Tim Zimmerman and Benjamin Heites. Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Vitscher, Salman Avega Vega, David Schumacher, and the Catfinger twins rounding out the top 8, rounding out a thoroughly entertaining season for ADAC GT Masters. Dennis Bulatov, Mike David Ortman came home in 9th, ahead of Max Rice and Kwanda Mokoena. Simon Connor, Bremen, Jonas Greif, fairly quiet race for them in 11th, ahead of the Pro-Am winners, Pablo Schumann, Jonas Karklees, then Chandler Hull and Nico Handke. They'd been in the wars, but they got a second in the Pro-Ams. Then is Eduardo Cosateng and Gregory de Cyborg. And I believe that Alexander Schwarzer and Alex Fack will still get a trophy for 3rd place, because I think they were still, will be registered as finishers in the Pro-Am race. So 3rd place in the Pro-Ams for Team Alex Fack Auto Tech. So that rounds off what has been a wonderful season in the ADAC GT Masters. And we're hoping as this season continues, as the series continues to grow more and more, that we will see more cars, more rounds, and more excitement in 2025. It is very much on the up at the moment. Last year, we had that revised format for GT Masters, and now it's started to grow from there. And it has been a thoroughly spectacular year, but it's been a year where we have crowned a brand new champion, the youngest ever in Tom Callender. And for the first time ever, we have recrowned a defending champion in the shape of Elias Seppänen in the Landgraf Mercedes. The 2 drivers who finished at the top of the points after a season of wonderful racing in ADAC GT Masters. So as we wait for the cars to, well, the drivers to head up to the podium, and there is confirmation of the points with the season complete. A 48-point lead. Leon Köhler, Max Osten, well, they did everything that they could. Sometimes not having the pace in the BMW that they would like. Salman Vega, David Schumacher eventually coming home in 3rd place ahead of Finn Wiebelhaus and Yanis Fitcher. Alan Valente and Jean-Luc D'Auria, well, let's hope they're back next year, because we need more of what we've seen there. The never say die driving ahead of Benjamin Heites and Alex Schwarzer and Alexander Fack 7th in the overall championship, apart from taking the win in the Pro-Am Championship. Mike David Ortman and Dennis Bulatov, I think, to be fair, they were expecting more out of this season, but I think just finding the pace in the Aston Martin, but I think they've managed to unlock some of it. So hopefully they'll be back next year, and we will see them competing for the championship. There's the rest of the points scrolling through here at the Hockenheimring, what has been a very entertaining race. There are your new champions. There are the drivers who finished in 3rd place. A few slightly damaged panels on the Ferrari. Alan Valente and Jean-Luc D'Auria. Shrug of the shoulders, a little bit circumspect about it. There is the 2nd place, Max Osten and Leon Köhler. But the race winners, Tom Callender and Elias Seppänen, the new champions, take the top step of the podium. What a way to finish what has been an incredible year for this duo. And from Landgraf Motorsports onto the podium, the winning team as well. Handshakes with all 6 of the drivers. So now it's time for the, we might get the Pro-Am up here before the national anthem. Here we go. Pablo Schum, Jonas Karklees taking their first ever win in the Pro-Am category, and they get to stand on the podium as well. And now we head towards the national anthem.
Und zu Ehren der erfolgreichen Mannschaft hören wir jetzt die Hymne der Bundesrepublik Deutschland. Gebt noch einen großen Applaus für unser Podium mit ADAC GT Masters.
So with the podium ceremony now well underway, the trophies to be presented. We're running a little bit late here this afternoon, so I don't think we're going to be able to see a presentation to the champions. We're certainly going to see the presentation by Carsten Schulz, the technical resident of ADAC, presenting the winning trophy to Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender. From Pirelli, Sinan Mutafoglu, who presents second place to Max Osten and Leon Köhler. And Dr. Felix Brich, the Football League referee, who presents the third place trophies to Alain Valente and Jean-Luc D'Oria. A bruising showdown with Juliana Holzem there. Andrea Schmitz, the chairwoman of ADAC Nordheim EV, presents the trophy to the legendary Landgraf. And then a trophy to our Pro-Am winners, Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer. So they receive their trophies for the win in the Pro-Am race. So as the drivers pose for their photos, we reflect on what has been a thoroughly entertaining season. 12 races of ADAC GT Masters 2024. We started in April at Oschersleben, we went to Zandvoort. We had 2 endurance races, one at the Nürburgring, one at Spa-Francorchamps. We went to Austria, and then we finished it all here at the Hockenheimring in Germany. We're planning on doing it all again next year, maybe bigger, maybe better. Keep an eye out for the calendar. There may be some interesting developments. That will be published before too long. But the 2025 season of ADAC GT Masters is incoming. The winner on the road to DTM, Elias Seppänen with Tom Callender. They are the champions of GT Masters 2024. The celebrations will start. They will no doubt continue throughout the winter as the drivers pose with the team boss for photographs in celebration of what has been a monumental year for them. The first driver ever to successfully defend a GT Masters title and the youngest ever driver to win the ADAC GT Masters. And they're with their team boss. Now return to the podium, and we are hopefully going to just see them as the champions. We've got to be quick because we're running against the curfew, but here we go. Tom Callender and Elias Seppänen are the GT Masters champion of 2024. And now we have a national anthem once again. So the trophy to be presented to our championship winners by Carsten Schulz, the technical president of ADAC. And the trophy presented to our winners. In the background, we can hear the ADAC GT4 as they start their formation lap. But let's not take the focus away from our brand new champion, Tom Callender, our successfully defended champion, Elias Seppänen. It is the end of a fantastic year as the champagne goes flying. Your champions for 2024, Tom Callender and Elias Seppänen. We'll see you in 2025. Bye-bye. The 2024 season of ADAC